Your soulmate was caught crying about your age last night, they told their friend. My beloved child. Your soulmate was caught crying about your age last night, but what shook their friend wasn't the tears, it was the sentence that came immediately after. They had been trying to hide this feeling for longer than anyone realized. Then, sometime late last night, the pressure finally broke through. Their friend noticed their eyes were red and quietly asked, "Is this really about them?" Your soulmate tried to look away. They couldn't. After several seconds of silence, they whispered something about your age that their friend clearly wasn't expecting. But here's what makes this strange: they weren't criticizing you. They weren't embarrassed by you. Their tears came from a fear they had never admitted aloud before. And when their friend asked what they were so afraid of losing, your soulmate gave an answer that changed the entire conversation. They admitted that your age had been on their mind because it made them think about time differently. Not numbers. Not appearances. Time. How many moments had already passed while they stayed silent? How many opportunities had they wasted convincing themselves they could speak tomorrow? Their friend stared at them and said, "Then why are you still waiting?" That question hit harder than expected. Your soulmate lowered their head and confessed that every time they imagined approaching you, another fear appeared. What if you had already emotionally moved beyond them? What if they finally became brave enough when you were no longer willing to wait? Don't skip, because this is where their friend noticed something important. Your soulmate wasn't crying because they believed the age difference made love impossible. They were crying because they suddenly realized they had allowed fear to steal time they could never recover. Then their friend asked one final question: if you could tell them one thing tonight without being interrupted, what would you say? Your soulmate went completely quiet. Their hands tightened around the edge of the chair. For a moment, they couldn't even answer. Then they said, "I would tell them I never wanted their age to become a reason for distance. I was scared of what everyone else might think, and somewhere along the way, I confused that fear with what I actually wanted." But they didn't stop there. Their friend leaned closer because your soulmate's next words were barely above a whisper. They admitted they had already made a private decision about you, one they hadn't shared with anyone before last night. And strangely, after hearing it, their friend didn't tell them to wait. They said, "Then you know what you have to do." Your soulmate wiped their eyes, reached for their phone, and opened something connected directly to you. But before they touched the screen, they revealed exactly what they were planning to do next, and that was the part their friend never saw coming. What your soulmate opened on that phone wasn't an ordinary message. It was something they had written days earlier and repeatedly refused to send. Their friend saw your name at the top of the screen and immediately understood why those tears had become impossible to hide. The message began with an admission: "I've been thinking about how much time I've wasted being afraid." Your soulmate had written about your age, but not in the way you might expect. They confessed that other people's opinions had gotten inside their head, making them question something their heart had never truly questioned. And then came the line that made their friend look directly at them: "I'm more afraid of losing this person than I am of being judged for choosing them." So why hadn't they sent it? Because there was still one truth they were terrified you might misunderstand. Their friend asked them to explain, and your soulmate finally admitted what had been happening privately. Whenever someone mentioned age, timing, or what a relationship was supposed to look like, they acted unaffected. But afterward, they would replay those comments alone. Not because those opinions changed their feelings for you, but because they feared those opinions might eventually hurt you. "What if they think I'm ashamed of them?" your soulmate whispered. That question was the real source of last night's tears. They weren't trying to escape you. They were terrified that their silence had already made you feel rejected. Stay till the end, because their friend immediately challenged them. If you care this much, stop deciding for them. Let them decide how they feel. Your soulmate froze. For the first time, they realized that hiding their feelings to supposedly protect you might actually have been causing the very pain they wanted to prevent. That realization changed their entire expression. Your soulmate looked back at the unsent message and started deleting certain lines, not because their feelings had changed, but because they wanted you to hear the truth without excuses. Their friend watched as they replaced explanations with something much simpler: "Your age was never the problem. My fear was." Then your soulmate typed another sentence, stopped, erased it, and tried again. Their hands were trembling because this time they weren't writing about what other people might say. They were writing about what they wanted with you. Something huge is waiting for you, because their friend suddenly noticed a second item open beneath the message. Something your soulmate had apparently prepared before that emotional conversation even began. "Wait," their friend said. "You already planned this?" Your soulmate looked up with tears still in their eyes and quietly answered, "Yes. I just didn't know if I'd ever be brave enough to show them." And what was sitting beneath that unfinished message revealed that last night's breakdown had actually begun much earlier than anyone knew. That hidden item beneath the message was a note your soulmate had been building quietly for weeks. It contained dates, memories, and little details about you they were afraid they might someday forget. Their friend scrolled only far enough to understand what it was, then handed the phone back. One sentence stood out: "I kept worrying about our ages until I realized the only thing truly disappearing was time." Your soulmate's eyes filled again. They admitted that every conversation about age had forced them to imagine a future where they never told you the truth. And strangely, that possibility frightened them more than rejection. Their friend asked, "So what exactly are you waiting for?" This time your soulmate didn't have an excuse. They looked at your name on the screen and whispered, "I'm waiting to know whether they could still believe me after all this silence." But their friend knew there was something deeper. "You're not telling me everything," they said. Your soulmate hesitated, then revealed why last night had become so emotional. Earlier that day, someone had casually mentioned you during a conversation and suggested that perhaps too much time had passed, that maybe you had already accepted that nothing would happen between you. Your soulmate laughed it off in front of everyone, but those words followed them home. What if you really had stopped waiting? What if their fear about age had created so much distance that you interpreted silence as indifference? That thought finally broke them. "I never stopped caring," they told their friend. "I just kept thinking there would be a better moment." Their friend shook their head and replied, "Better than what? You have the truth right now." And suddenly your soulmate realized the perfect moment they had been waiting for might never arrive. Then something changed. Instead of closing the phone again, your soulmate opened the message and began rewriting the final lines. No complicated explanation. No hiding behind what friends, relatives, or strangers might think. They wrote that your age had never reduced what they felt, it had only exposed how frightened they were of wasting precious time. Then they added something their friend wasn't expecting: if they give me one honest conversation, I'm going to tell them everything. Their finger hovered above the screen. Don't skip what comes next, because their friend thought the message was finally about to be sent, but your soulmate suddenly stopped. A notification had appeared before they could touch the button. They stared at the screen, completely motionless. Their friend leaned over and asked, "What happened?" Your soulmate swallowed hard and whispered, "That changes everything. Because the notification was connected to you." And whatever they saw made them rethink what they were about to say. The notification didn't contain some dramatic confession from you. That was exactly why it affected your soulmate so deeply. It was a simple reminder connected to an old memory, something that brought them back to a moment when you had spoken about time, getting older, and not wanting to waste your life waiting for people who couldn't decide what they wanted. Your soulmate had almost forgotten those words. Now they returned with painful clarity. Their friend watched their face change and asked what was wrong. Your soulmate quietly explained the memory, then said, "What if they meant me?" Suddenly, every delay felt different. Every unsent message felt heavier. The fear wasn't merely that you might reject them anymore. It was that you might have finally learned to choose yourself instead of waiting for someone who remained silent. Their friend didn't comfort them with an easy answer. Instead, they asked, if they've moved forward, would you still tell them the truth? Your soulmate stared at the screen for several seconds before answering, "Yes. Because they deserve to know my silence wasn't about their age." That sentence mattered. Until last night, your soulmate had been focused on protecting themselves from judgment, awkward questions, and uncertainty. Now they were thinking about what their silence might have communicated to you. Maybe you had wondered whether you were too old, too young, or somehow wrong for them. The possibility brought tears back to their eyes. "I hate thinking they could blame themselves," they admitted. Their friend immediately replied, "Then don't let another day pass without correcting that." And for the first time that night, your soulmate stopped asking whether they were ready and started asking whether continuing to wait was fair to you. They returned to the message, but instead of immediately pressing send, your soulmate added one final truth: "If you ever thought your age made me pull away, please know that wasn't it. I pulled away because I was scared of how much this meant to me." Their friend read their expression and knew something had shifted. This was no longer a private confession meant to stay hidden inside a phone. Your soulmate had decided they wanted a real conversation with you, even if the answer frightened them. But just as they prepared to send the message, their friend asked one question that stopped them again: "Before you do this, are you prepared to tell them what you decided about the future?" Your soulmate slowly looked up. Apparently, there was still one decision they hadn't revealed, a decision connected directly to the age difference they had cried about all night. And when they finally told their friend what it was, even their friend needed a moment before responding. Your soulmate finally admitted that the decision wasn't about walking away, it was about refusing to let age control their choices anymore. They told their friend, "I kept asking whether this makes sense to everyone else. I never stopped to ask whether losing them would make sense to me. That realization had been growing quietly for weeks. Every time someone questioned the timing, the difference between you, or what the future might look like, your soulmate became more cautious. But caution had slowly turned into avoidance. Last night, they finally saw the cost of it. Their friend asked whether they were truly prepared for questions from other people. Your soulmate wiped their eyes and answered, "I'd rather answer 100 questions than spend years wondering what would have happened if I had been honest." But there was one person whose reaction still frightened them more than anyone else's, yours. Their friend leaned forward and asked the question your soulmate had been avoiding all night: what if they're angry that you waited this long? Your soulmate didn't pretend otherwise. "Then I'll listen," they said. "I won't defend myself. I'll let them tell me what my silence did." That answer surprised their friend because earlier your soulmate had been searching for the perfect explanation. Now they understood that you might not need explanations first. You might need honesty. They admitted something else too. They had imagined your first real conversation many times, but every imagined version ended with them controlling the outcome. Last night changed that. "I can tell them how I feel," your soulmate said, "but I can't decide how they should respond." Their friend nodded. "Exactly. Give them the truth, not pressure." And those words finally gave your soulmate the courage they had been missing. They looked down at the message again, but this time their finger didn't tremble. Before sending it, however, your soulmate opened the private note one last time and showed their friend a line written several weeks earlier: "If I ever become brave enough, I want them to know I was never counting their years. I was counting the moments I missed." Their friend went silent. Suddenly, last night's tears made complete sense. Your soulmate hadn't broken down because your age had changed their feelings. They had broken down because they realized how much precious time fear had already taken from both of you. Then your soulmate closed the note, returned to your message, and took a slow breath. "Stay with this, because something unexpected happened next." Instead of pressing send, they tapped another option on the screen. Their friend immediately asked, "What are you doing?" Your soulmate looked up and said, "A message isn't enough anymore." And what they decided to do instead could finally bring the conversation about your age directly to you. Your soulmate decided they wanted you to hear their voice. Not a carefully edited paragraph. Not another message they could rewrite 20 times before sending. Their friend watched as they opened the call screen and stared at your name. "If I hide behind another text," your soulmate said quietly, "I'll probably find another reason to wait." But their finger still hovered above the call button. What would they say if you answered immediately? Would your voice make every prepared sentence disappear? Their friend told them to forget rehearsing and start with the truth. So your soulmate practiced only one sentence: "I need you to know that your age was never something I wanted to change about you." Then they stopped, because even saying those words aloud brought emotion back into their voice. But before making the call, your soulmate revealed why this conversation had suddenly become so urgent. They had recently heard someone suggest that you might be questioning whether the age difference was the reason for their distance. That possibility had stayed in their mind all day. What if they've been looking in the mirror wondering what's wrong with them? Your soulmate asked. Their friend immediately answered, then make sure they never have to wonder because of your silence again. Your soulmate nodded slowly. They admitted that they couldn't promise what the future would look like, and they couldn't control how everyone else might react. But they could finally stop allowing uncertainty to speak for them. And there was something else they wanted you to hear, something they had never even written in that private note. I don't want them to feel like they have to prove anything to me, they said. I want them exactly as they are. Then your soulmate pressed the call button. One ring. Their entire expression changed. 2 rings. Their friend quietly moved away, giving them space. 3 rings. Your soulmate almost ended the call, but stopped themselves. No, they whispered. Not this time. Then the ringing suddenly ended. For one breathless second, they couldn't tell whether you had answered or whether the call had gone elsewhere. Your soulmate sat completely still, listening. And then something happened on the other end that made them cover their mouth with one hand. Their friend turned around immediately. What is it? They asked. Your soulmate didn't answer. They were listening to something connected to you, something that brought tears back into their eyes, only these tears were different. Because in that moment, they realized there was another truth about your age, your timing, and the distance between you that they had completely misunderstood. What your soulmate heard wasn't the response they had rehearsed for. The call had reached something connected to an older message from you, and hearing your voice suddenly brought back a detail they had overlooked. You had once spoken about age without shame or fear. What mattered to you was whether 2 people could be honest about what they wanted instead of allowing time to make the decision for them. Your soulmate closed their eyes as those words landed differently now. Their friend could see it immediately. You remembered something, didn't you? They asked. Your soulmate nodded. I spent all this time worrying they would reject me because of the age difference, they whispered, but maybe they were waiting for me to stop treating it like something that needed permission. That realization left them shaken, because it meant their biggest obstacle may never have been your age at all. Then another memory surfaced. Months earlier, you had asked your soulmate a simple question about the future, and instead of answering honestly, they changed the subject. At the time, they convinced themselves they were protecting both of you from an uncomfortable conversation. Now they understood how that moment might have looked from your side. Maybe you thought they were uncertain about you. Maybe you believed your age had made them hesitate. I did exactly what I was afraid other people would do, your soulmate admitted. I made the number bigger than the person. Their friend didn't interrupt. Your soulmate needed to hear themselves say it. Then came another confession: if they're willing to speak to me, I'm not going to ask them to wait. I'm going to tell them the truth and let them choose. That was the first time all night their voice sounded steady. But something still remained unfinished. Your soulmate looked at the phone and realized that one missed call wouldn't explain why they had reached out after so much silence. So they recorded a short voice message. No dramatic promises. No pressure. Just the truth. I need to talk to you about something I should have said a long time ago. It's about why I pulled away, and I don't want you believing it was because of your age. Their finger hovered over send. Their friend whispered, that's enough. Let the conversation happen naturally. Your soulmate sent it. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the screen changed. A small indication appeared beside your conversation, showing that something had happened almost immediately after the voice message arrived. Your soulmate stared at it, suddenly unable to speak. Their friend leaned closer and asked, "Did they see it?" Your soulmate slowly nodded, but what appeared next made them realize you may have been holding back something of your own this entire time.